in session. You may be seated. Thank you.
Thank you for indulging us with a little bit longer. We did have another legal issue to attend to that is taken care of, and we are prepared to continue. With that, Mr. Hiltner or Ms. Mills, I don't know which of you will be getting up, but you may cross-examine.
Your Honor, thank you. Morning, Ms. Bonifant.
Morning.
My name is Max Hiltner, and I represent Colleen, okay?
Okay.
And if at any point you don't understand the question that I'm asking you, just let me know and I'll rephrase. Fair?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you stated on direct examination here today that Colleen never told you about any problems with their marriage. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. But it's also fair to say that that's not Colleen. Colleen's not that type of person, correct?
What do you mean?
Well, in your opinion, Colleen isn't that type of person to talk about the issues that she has, right?
Right.
Now, I want to talk to you about your claim that you saw what happened at Lou's bar. So let's first talk about what you remember from that night, okay?
Okay.
All right, you remember that this incident happened sometime in May of 2014.
Sounds right.
Okay. And you remember that there was an argument about money?
Yes.
And you remember Colleen punching Rob?
Yes.
You don't remember.
Objection, Your Honor.
Well, as to the form of that question, I think that might be a little difficult to do, but you can phrase it another way.
It was just a transition.
Okay.
You don't remember what day you were there in May, do you?
I don't.
Okay. You don't remember what time you got there?
No.
You don't remember if it was early or if it was late?
I know it was late.
You know it was late?
Yes.
Okay. You don't remember how you got to the bar?
I don't.
You don't remember if you went to the bar with Rob or Colleen?
I don't.
You don't remember if you got there before Rob or Colleen, do you?
No.
Is that a no?
No.
And in fact, you stated that you really don't remember much about being in the bar that night, do you?
I don't.
But you claim you were sober.
Maybe. A little on the edge.
Maybe a little on the edge. Okay. Can you describe what that means to the jury?
I might have had a little bit of a buzz. I wasn't drunk.
So by you might have had a little bit of a buzz. How much had you had to drink?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, how much does it usually take for you to drink to get a buzz?
Objection, Your Honor.
Overruled. It depends on what I'm drinking, really.
Okay, well, what were you drinking that night?
Probably beer.
Probably beer?
Probably.
Okay, but you don't remember if it was beer?
I don't.
Okay. So we'll add that to the list of the things you don't remember about that night. Fair? Now, at some point, you go from inside of the bar to outside of the bar, correct?
Correct.
All right. You don't remember why you went outside, do you?
I was on my phone.
Okay. It's your testimony that you know that you went outside the bar to make a phone call. Is that
I
right?
was texting.
You were texting.
Yes.
Okay. You know that now.
I'm pretty sure.
You're pretty sure or you know that's why you went outside?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay. At one point, did you say you don't know why you went outside that night?
I did.
Okay. That was in a prior proceeding, right?
Yes.
Okay. And that was months ago, right?
Right.
Okay. But today, on the stand, you're testifying that you know why you went outside.
Yes.
Did you go out there by yourself?
Yes.
Why did you go out there by yourself?
I was on my phone.
Okay. But you don't remember if Ashley was out there with you or not, do you?
The more I thought about it, I remember she was not.
The more you thought about it. So you're not denying that prior, you were of the belief that you didn't know whether she was out there with you or not?
Correct.
Okay, but now you're certain she was not?
Correct.
Okay. When did you come to the decision that she was not out there with you?
I don't have an approximate date.
Was it between the last proceeding and this proceeding?
Yes.
What new information did you have that told you, hey, Ashley wasn't out there with me that night?
None.
You just remember.
Yes.
So then Ashley wouldn't have seen what supposedly happened that night, right?
Correct.
Because she wasn't outside with you.
Correct.
And you don't actually remember if you had seen Rob and Colleen prior to you going outside that night, correct?
Prior to, as in at a different location?
No, I'm talking about Lou's specifically. Let me clarify. So prior to you going outside at Lou's, you don't know if that's the first time you saw Rob and Colleen at Lou's, did you?
I don't.
Okay. So you don't know if you saw them in the bar that night prior to that.
I don't think so.
So you go outside of Lou's for a phone call that you now remember, and you happen to be a few feet away from Rob and Colleen. Fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. And did they acknowledge your presence there?
No.
Okay. So they didn't say hi to you?
No.
You didn't say hi to them?
No.
They're your friends, right?
Yes.
Were you behind them?
I would have been in front of them. I was like on Tusk in front of the building. I would have been the side of the building,
But
but
within a few feet of them?
yes.
Okay, so they could have seen that you were there.
Yes.
They would have seen that you were there.
Yes.
And with them seeing that you're there, it's your testimony that you saw Colleen punch Rob in the face.
Yes.
How long were you outside before that happened? So for a few minutes, you're standing, Rob and Colleen, they're facing you.
They weren't facing me.
They weren't facing you.
No.
So did they not see you?
They were facing each other and they were fighting.
So you don't, well, I believe you just said that they probably would have seen you, right, from where you were standing?
Yes.
Okay. So it's reasonable to believe that they could see you where you were standing.
Right.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained, somebody else knew or saw.
Could you see them?
Yes.
Could you see their faces?
One of them.
Okay. And was the one face that you saw facing you?
It was facing the building. They were here and I was here.
Now, when you're standing a few feet away and you supposedly see Colleen hit Rob, you didn't intervene physically, did you?
No.
What did you do?
I asked her why she would do that.
And then you just left?
I went back inside the bar.
Okay. Did you talk to Rob?
Afterward, yes.
Okay, but you didn't see how Rob was right at that moment?
No.
Okay. You saw this, what you would phrase as Colleen punching Rob in the face, and you just said, why would you do that? And then you turned around and you walked back into the bar?
Yes.
Did you call the police?
No.
Did you follow up with Colleen about that?
No.
You didn't say, hey, did he do something to you first?
No.
You didn't say, what on earth precipitated you hitting him in the face?
I just asked why she would do that.
But you didn't follow up on it.
No.
Now, you saw it, well, at some point you got in touch with Detective Golke, right?
Correct.
All right. And Detective Golke didn't come banging on your door, did he?
No.
Okay. You went down to the Masson Police Department, right?
Right.
You said, hey, look, I got some pertinent information on the McKernan case.
Right.
And then you asked to speak with a detective.
Correct.
Okay. And you got a detective, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you spoke to him.
Yes.
And that detective was Detective Golke.
Correct.
Okay. And at that point, you wanted to be helpful to the investigation, right?
Right.
You wanted to tell them everything that you knew about the case.
Right.
Okay. And you did that, right?
Yes.
And you talked to Detective Golke several times, didn't you?
Yes.
Okay, one would be, does February 11, 2015 sound about right?
Yes.
And that interview, to your recollection, was about an hour long?
Yes.
Okay. And then on February 23rd, 2015, you met with Detective Golke again, right?
Right.
And you don't remember how long that conversation was?
No.
Okay. But you then gave a written statement, correct?
Correct.
Now, nowhere in your 2 interviews with Detective Golke or in your written statement do you mention ever seeing Colleen assault Rob at the bar at Lou's. Do you?
No.
We'd agree that'd be pertinent information, correct?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
We're drawing out. So that's a yes, you did not inform Detective Golke of that incident?
Yes.
Let's talk about the time that you saw Colleen with a gun, okay?
Okay.
You're aware that she has a CCW, right?
Yes.
All right. And you testified on direct that you'd only seen Colleen with a gun one time,
Correct.
all right? And that one time was in her car, right?
Correct.
Okay. And the gun was in the center console, correct? Okay. And there are no other instances that you recall of seeing Colleen with a gun, fair to say?
Fair.
And again, you remember speaking to Detective Golke, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
didn't you tell Detective Golke that you thought Colleen treated guns like toys?
Yes.
But you'd only seen her with a gun one time, right?
Yes.
And it was in the center console.
Yes.
And she has CCW.
Yes.
All right, so let's talk about this alleged gun pulling incident involving Rob and Colleen.
Objection, Your Honor.
This is a transition, Your Honor. It's not a question.
Well, let's ask, sustained as to that, just ask a question, counsel, but you can ask your question.
Okay. So Rob, it's your testimony that Rob came over at about 7:30 a.m., right?
Yes. Yes.
Now, Rob tells this gun-telling story to Alex first, right?
Right.
And he told his best friend this gun-pulling story for a couple minutes.
Correct.
Just a couple, right?
Yes.
How many minutes was it after he arrived that he told this story to Alex?
Right after he arrived,
It was right after he arrived?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Now, he then came and told, he being Rob then came and supposedly told you this story too, right?
Correct.
All right, and that was about 15 minutes after he finished telling the story to Alex?
Yes.
And then he told you the story, and he talked to you for about 15 minutes, right?
Not even.
Then what would it be?
Maybe 5-10 minutes.
Okay, I believe you said on direct 10 minutes. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay. And in that 10 to 15 minutes, you didn't find out, while he's telling you this, or in these 10 minutes, you didn't find out any of the circumstances surrounding why she apparently pulled a gun on him?
No.
Okay. You didn't ask any questions?
No.
You just listened to him tell this story and then you didn't follow it up, right?
Right.
Okay. Isn't it true that the reason why you didn't follow it up is because a lot of times you couldn't believe the things that were coming out of Rob's mouth?
Objection, Your Honor.
Overruled, it's crossed.
No.
That's not true?
No.
You've never mentioned to anybody that a lot of times you could not trust the things that were coming out of Rob McKernan's mouth?
No.
Objection, Your Honor.
Well, sustained, that's a little global to say to anyone. I think you need to be more specific.
I'll move on now. Now, you stated that Rob told you this story approximately 30 minutes after he arrived. Right, Jeff?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained, it's not in the testimony.
Did you ever believe that Rob told you this story 30 minutes after he had arrived?
I don't understand.
Have you ever held the belief that Rob McKernan told you this story 30 minutes after he arrived?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
They say you had to be at work, or you left for work at 7:45 a.m., correct?
No.
You did not?
I had to be at work between 8 and 8:30.
Okay. So you've never stated that you had to leave for work by 7:45 a.m.?
Not that I recall.
Okay. Have a brief moment, Your Honor.
You may.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Ms. Bonfant, you remember testifying in a previous proceeding, right?
Yes.
Regarding this matter?
Yes.
All right. In that proceeding, you swore to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, just like you did today, right?
Correct.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained. Just ask the question.
Question. This is page 69, line 22. All right, so when did you leave? Do you remember? Line 24, answer probably 7:45. Did I read that correctly?
Objection, Your Honor.
Overruled at this point.
Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
Were you late to work that day, Ms. Bonfant?
Not that I recall.
Okay. Well, so Rob, your testimony here today, if I understand you correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, is Rob McKernan got there about 7:30. He told this story to Alex for about 10 minutes, right? Is that correct?
More or less.
Okay. And then he came and told you the story for about 10 to 15 minutes, right?
Yeah.
And then you still somehow were able to leave for work right around 7:45.
Objection, Your Honor.
Overruled as to the
Believe that this picture was taken?
Before, I did not know anything. I didn't know the time. I knew the date.
Okay. Who took this picture?
My oldest son.
Your oldest son took that picture.
Yes.
How old was your oldest son at that point
He
in
would have
time?
been 5.
I'm sorry, say that again.
He would have been 5.
He would have been 5, so he took this picture?
Yes.
Okay, and then that's your 2-year-old son there?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you'll agree with me, well, you stated on direct that when Rob was talking in the kitchen, he was kind of slumped over in his chair, right?
He was sitting like...
We said he wasn't sitting straight up, right?
Right.
He was kind of slumped over.
Yes.
And this is Rob on your couch, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and that's Rob on your couch with a blanket.
Yes.
Is he taking a nap?
No.
Objection.
overruled.
Was he sleeping something off on your couch from the night before?
Objection, Your Honor.
Overruled if she can answer that.
He's not sleeping.
Okay, well, at any point, is it your understanding that he took a nap on your couch?
No.
So to your knowledge, he didn't take a nap on your couch?
No.
All right, so to your knowledge, you don't know if he was sleeping something off from the night before on your couch?
Objection.
Okay, counsel asked and answered. She's already said no.
Now, and as far as, one last thing with this, as far as the timing of this photo, you're not any sort of tech guru, are you?
No.
Okay. So, you're not aware that there was an issue with timestamps with Apple in 2014?
No.
Objection, Your Honor.
You're not aware of that?
No.
You're not aware of where the time zones were off?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained as to the basis for that.
All right, Ms. Bonfant, you'd agree that you're a fact witness in this trial, right?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
You came here to, you would agree that being here today, that you just wanted to tell the facts as you know them, right?
Correct.
And then you believe you walked in that door today without any bias?
Objection, Your Honor.
Overruled.
Yes.
Ma'am, isn't it true that you have Rob's name tattooed on your body?
It is.
It is?
Yes.
A moment, Your Honor. Nothing further this time, Your Honor.
Any redirect?
Very briefly, Your Honor. Kelly, was Rob your friend?
Yes.
Did you consider him a close friend?
Pretty close.
And on December 31st, 2014, did you lose a friend?
I did.
And I believe you had also previously indicated he was close to your boyfriend.
Correct.
Now, I had some questions for you with regards to, start with the conversations after November 14th, 2014. I believe there had been some indication of approximately 300 text messages exchanged between you and Colleen after that period of time. Do you recall that information in that question?
Yes.
I believe you stated that you were surprised by that.
I was.
And why was that?
Because there was a lot more. We talked constantly before, constantly texting.
Okay. And those, if there was conversations between the two of you via the phone, do you recall whether those conversations after this incident were all one-sided, or were you conversing back and forth?
I really don't recall what they were about.
Not the detail. Do you recall specifically you attempting to contact Colleen and sending her message after message after message and her not responding?
No.
Do you recall her sending you message after message after message and you not responding?
No.
Now, specifically with regards to the November gun pulling incident, did you recall specifically speaking to Detective Golke about that incident?
I do.
With regards to Luz, do you recall whether or not Detective Golke asked you about Luz and the times that you had met with him?
I don't recall. I don't think that he did.
All right. And do you recall the issue of an incident at Luz being brought up at some point in time after speaking to Detective Golke?
Yes.
And who asked you about an incident at Luz for the first time?
The prosecution.
And do you recall approximately when it was in relation to the incident? Was it close in time to the incident or after the incident?
After.
How long after?
I'm really not sure.
Let me ask you this. Was it brought up prior to a prior proceeding?
Yes.
Was it closer to the prior proceeding or was it closer to the incident on December 31st, 2014?
Closer to the proceeding.
Did you speak to Detective Golke at any point in time after the prosecution had asked you about the Luz Bar incident?
No, I did not.
I just had one last question. You were previously shown some testimony with regards to the time that you may have left for work on the morning of November 14th, 2014. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you were asked about the time, correct?
Correct.
And I believe defense counsel had read it out loud. And I would like for you to read out loud what your response was to the question. So I'm going to approach with you.
Okay.
Can I see what we're indicating to, Your Honor?
Absolutely, I'm sorry. All right, can you look at this page? It looks like,
Is there a sticker on that, or
no, Your Honor.
just for identifying it in the record? We should probably have something, which we can do it later, but that is one page.
Yes, I am
prior
showing one
testimony.
page, Your
Okay.
Honor.
That's right, we'll put a sticker on it later, just go ahead.
All right, thank you. Just look at the bottom of this one page, ma'am. Do you see the conversation in question and answers that were given?
Yes.
And the question prior to your answer was, So when did you leave? Do you remember? Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
And what was your response?
Probably about 7:45.
All right, so fair to say, when asked about that, it was about 7:45, correct?
Correct.
So you were not specific at that point in time as to whether or not it was exactly 7:45.
Right. May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Nothing further, thank you.
Any recross?
So Kelly, you were responding to the text messages that Colleen sent you, right?
Yes.
And it was mentioned that you lost a friend on New Year's and that Alex had. Alex also heard the gun pulling incident, right?
Right.
Objection, Your Honor.
Asked and answered, and basis of knowledge. If she has a basis of knowledge from which to answer, you can answer that. If not, then explain that.
Well, Alex was Rob's best friend, right?
Right.
Where's he to tell the story about the gun
Objection.
pulling incident?
Sustained. Ladies and gentlemen, you will disregard that question, and there was no answer. Counsel.
Nothing further.
Ma'am, you may step down. Do we have another witness to call?
Yes, Your Honor, the state of Ohio called Judy Schmucker to the stand.
Morning, please. Raise your hand. You solemnly swear to testify the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Stop making all my noise, sorry. Okay. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ma'am, can you please give us your full name and spell your last name for us?
Judy Schmucker, Schmucker.
And ma'am, where do you reside?
1755 Oak Trail, Maslin.
And how do you know Rob and Colleen McKernan?
They were my neighbors, catty corner from my house.
And how long were they your neighbors?
They moved in May of 2014.
Okay. And was that the first time you met them?
Yes,
And did you have interactions specifically with Robert McKernan?
very few. A couple-
Okay. Did you ever spend time with them at their residence?
Yes,
How many times?
I would say maybe 3, 4.
And was this social visits?
Yes,
And when you would have those social visits, was it with just Rob, just Colleen, or both?
both for dinner and once in a while just Colleen.
Okay. And would you occasionally run into either of them when outside your residence?
Yes,
All right. And what occasions would you run into them outside of the residence?
when the dogs were out,
Whose dogs?
Colleen and Rod's dogs.
Okay. Now, I'm going to bring you back to the evening hours of November 13th of 2014. Do you remember that evening?
Yes,
And who came to your residence that evening?
Colleen McKernan,
And do you recall approximately what time that was?
11:30 p.m.
And what were you doing at the time that she came to your residence?
I was actually just getting ready to go to bed.
Okay. And how did she come to your residence? Did she drive or walk, do you know?
She walked over.
Okay. How did she get into your residence?
She was banging on my door and ringing my doorbell, and I asked who it was, and she said Colleen, and she asked me to please open the door.
Okay, and did you do that?
I did.
And at that point in time, were you able to observe her physical and emotional demeanor?
Yes.
And when she first got to your residence, how would you describe her?
She was whining and almost like there were no tears, but she was trying to appear as though she was crying.
I'm going to sustain it and lay a better foundation for the question. Ladies and gentlemen, you disregard that answer thus far.
All right, can you explain to us what you observed? I believe you first stated whining, correct?
Yes.
Okay. What other specific things did you note about her appearance? What were you observing?
What she said to me was, Rob abuses me.
Okay. I'm going to back you up a little bit. What was her emotional demeanor at that point in time?
Can I show you how she said, Rob abuses me. And she said it in that tone.
Okay. And did you observe anything about her facial expressions when she was telling you this?
There was nothing specific.
Let me ask you this. Was she loud?
Yes.
Okay. Was she crying?
No.
Did you observe any injuries to her that evening?
No.
Did you notice anything about her appearance in the sense that did she appear to be under the influence of anything?
Yes.
Okay. Did you smell anything?
Yes.
What did you smell?
Alcohol.
And did you have an opinion as to whether she was intoxicated?
Yes.
And what was your opinion?
That she was.
And, all right, so you started to say that she indicated to you that Rob abused her, correct?
Yes.
Did she go into any specifics with you?
Yes.
What did she tell you?
She told me that he shoved her face against the window and then pointed to her arms and said, but there's no marks.
Okay. At a point in time during this conversation, you said she pointed to her arms.
Yes.
Were you able to see her arms?
Yes.
All right. Did you observe any injuries?
No.
Did she ever point out any injuries to you other than showing you her arms?
No.
Was she complaining of any headaches or anything with regards to her head?
No.
How did she describe the incident to you?
She said he restrains me.
Okay.
And at that point, I asked her what she meant by restrain. And I asked her to show me and not to literally restrain me. And so I bent down to pick something off the floor, and she grabbed my arm and twisted me and pulled me up and shoved me hard again in a lazy boy rocking chair.
Okay. And when she did that, did you sit in the chair?
I went back and my feet went up in the air.
Okay. What happened after that?
After that, I asked her if she was trying to show me what Rob did to her.
And what was her response?
She sat down on my sofa that was to the left of me and took her right hand and hit me hard in the chest with an open hand.
And what happened after that?
I asked her if she'd ever hit Rob.
And what was her response?
She said she punched him in the face.
Now, at some point in time, was there some discussion with Colleen about her cell phone?
Yes.
All right. And what were you aware of with regards to her cell phone during that particular conversation?
It wasn't during the conversation.
Let me re-ask the question then. Did it come to your attention at some point in time during the incident that you're describing now that there may have been a call made by Colleen?
No,
Was her phone ringing or beeping in any way?
no,
Do you recall whether or not there was any individuals that she spoke to other than yourself while at your residence?
yes.
Okay. And how do you know she spoke to somebody else while at your residence?
Because she put her phone on speaker.
Okay. And were you able to hear the conversation?
The only thing I heard the dispatcher, a Maslin dispatcher, say, "You've hung up on me twice, ma'am. You need to call me back." That was a voicemail.
Okay.
So she left it on speaker. I told her, call them back. And she did. And the dispatcher heard my voice in the background and wanted to know who I was. And she said, "My neighbor." And the dispatcher said, "I'm not talking to you. Take me off speaker." And so she took it off speaker.
Okay. And so at that point in time, you were not able to hear the dispatcher's part of the conversation, correct?
Correct.
Were you able to hear Colleen's part of the conversation?
I went into the kitchen.
Okay. And how long approximately was she on the phone?
2 minutes, maybe.
And in the time after this incident, did the law enforcement ever come to your residence immediately
No.
on that evening?
No.
Do you know whether or not law enforcement went to her residence that evening?
I checked. I was looking out the window and I did not see anything.
Okay. Now, all right, so this conversation happens on the phone. Colleen and the dispatcher, what happens next?
When she got off the phone, she said it was more verbal abuse than physical abuse. And would I be mad at her if she went back with Rob?
And did you respond?
I said, "You have to do what is best for you. Go home and think it over."
Okay. And did she leave?
Yes.
And at some point in time, did you see her again shortly after this incident?
Yes.
All right. When did you see her next?
The next morning,
Now, when she left that evening, do you recall whether she took any items with her when she left?
yes, I asked her if she had her phone.
Okay.
And she took it and went like this.
Okay. And was that immediately prior to her leaving?
Yes.
Okay. So the next morning, approximately what time do you come to contact?
Doorbell again. And at 6:45, my window.
Okay. What did you do at that point?
I went down and I opened the door and I told her I was done.
And did she ask you anything?
She said, "I left my cell phone here." And I said, "No, you did not. You took it with you last night." And I shut the door.
Now, let me ask you, during the time that you had an interaction with her that morning, do you recall her appearance? Do you recall what she looked like, what her emotional or physical appearance was?
Just a little, she looked tired.
Okay. Do you recall, was she still in maybe pajamas, or was she dressed for work, if you recall?
Well, she was not dressed for work,
Okay.
but I don't know if she had pajamas on.
What about her emotional state? Did she appear happy, sad, upset?
She turned around right away and left, and there was no strong emotion.
Did she indicate to you at all during that conversation that there were any additional problems that evening with Rob?
No.
Now, how often would you see Colleen?
I saw her frequently.
And other than this one incident that we've talked about in November, Did she ever discuss anything about her relationship with Rob with you any other time?
Very, very little.
Okay. Did you ever see any injuries or marks during those interactions that you had with Colleen?
No.
Did you notice any changes in her personality or demeanor from the time that you met her when they moved in May of 2014 until New Year's of 2014?
No.
Now, ma'am, it's my understanding that during some of these interactions with Colleen, there was some discussions about guns. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. How many times?
One time I brought it up, and then there was a little bit of texting about it.
Okay. And did you ever see her with any weapons?
Yes,
Okay. Where did that occur?
in my house.
All right. What weapon or how many, if you know?
It was a gun, I don't know the name, the kind, it was an automatic clip. And I asked her to show me how to use a gun.
Okay.
And so she brought it over, and she was showing me safety and how to hold a gun and pieces and parts.
Okay. So she brought it to your home and then you discussed different things about it?
Yes.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Mills?
Good morning. Is it Miss Smucker?
Yes.
Okay, I wanted to make sure that I pronounced that. I'm Laura Mills, and I represent Colleen McKernan, and I just have a few questions for you.
And before you get to that, Ms. Mills, I neglected to call you up here. Counsel, could you come up just a second? Sorry. All right. You can continue, Ms. Mills.
Thank you. Ms. Smucker, I want to speak to you about an evening prior to November 13th, 2014. Do you recall an evening in which Rob McKernan did not come home and you actually got into a car with Colleen to try to find him?
Yes.
Okay. And what you were doing is you were visiting multiple bars, seeing if he had been in any of those establishments, correct?
Objection, Your
No.
Honor.
Overruled.
One bar.
Okay, I'm sorry, Ms. Smucker. Where did you go looking for Rob McKernan?
I don't know the name of The bar.
Just a bar in Maslin?
Yes.
Okay. And do you recall approximately what time in the evening this was?
This was 5 o'clock in the morning.
Okay. So it was your understanding from Colleen that Rob had never come home. It's now 5 o'clock in the morning, and you're going in the car with her, I assume, to try to help her to find him.
Yes.
And did you ever find him?
No.
And do you have any understanding of where Mr. McKernan was that morning?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained unless you want to have a conversation.
No, Your Honor, I'll move on.
Okay.
And without telling me where Mr. McKernan is, did you have any conversations with Colleen about where Mr. McKernan had been that morning?
Yes.
Objection, Your
Okay.
Honor.
Overruled.
Were there any other instances, Ms. Smucker, that you traveled around with Colleen looking for Rob?
No. Not that I recall.
That particular evening that you were with her, was she concerned about his drinking?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained unless she expressed something. I mean, she can't say what another person was concerned with.
Thank you, Your Honor. Did Colleen express a concern that Rob hadn't been home and that he was out drinking that morning?
She didn't say. Her concern wasn't the drinking. It was more, she asked me if I thought he was cheating on her.
And you never located Rob McKernan that morning, correct?
No.
Okay, so then after you didn't find him at the bar, you just went home.
Yes.
Let's talk about November 13th, 2014. And you said Colleen came over around 11:30 at night, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Had you been drinking that evening?
No.
Okay. Had you taken anything that particular evening that might affect your memory?
No.
Anything that day?
No.
Okay. And when Colleen showed up, what were you doing? Watching the television, reading?
I was getting ready for bed.
Okay. And Colleen asked if she could come in, correct?
When she said that Rob abuses her and the whining, I caved immediately and opened the door.
Okay, and I guess that was my question. So she's standing outside the door, and you come to the door, and one of the first things she says to you is, Rob abuses me.
Right.
Okay. And she appears whining, correct?
Yes.
Had you ever seen Colleen cry prior to that evening?
No.
Okay. And at that point in time, did you think she was upset?
I did until she was walking up my steps and started chasing my cats. And she was staggering and going, kitties! And her whole demeanor changed.
Okay. And you let her in your house, correct?
Yes, I did.
And you listened to the voicemail of a police dispatcher, correct?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and when you listened to the voicemail from the police dispatcher, it was obvious that Colleen had called the police that night, correct?
Yes.
Right. And in fact, you said you should call them back.
Yes.
Okay. Now, you told her that she should call back the police after she demonstrated what Rob had done to her, correct?
No. I told her to call the police after the dispatcher said, you've hung up on me twice.
Okay, so my question to you, what had done to you, and then let you listen to the voicemail.
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure we have our timing right. So she describes what Rob has done. You listen to the voicemail. Tell her she should call the police back, correct?
Right.
Okay, and then the two of you actually call the police, correct?
She called him back. I didn't have anything to do with it.
Well, she used her phone, correct?
Yes.
And she had them on speaker,
Right.
okay? And have you listened to that 911 call?
I did.
Okay, and your voice is on there, correct?
Yes.
And in fact, you say, tell them that he hurt...
Hey, counsel, there's an objection.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear it.
That's okay. Let's all speak up. Sustained as to what was said on it, but you can ask her questions as to what she did, or we can approach.
Yeah, just so I have
Okay.
clarification. Ms. Mucker, I just want to go back so we didn't lose our train of time here. Colleen showed you what Rob had done to her before she made a call to the dispatcher, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then at that point in time, she had the dispatcher on a speakerphone and you were sitting with Colleen, correct?
No. I was standing at the kitchen.
Okay, I'm sorry. So were both of you in the kitchen?
No, she was on my sofa, which was probably from here to the judge.
Okay,
And not
and
the
that-
kitchen would be here.
Okay,
So there
so
was
that-
a little bit of distance. I stood,
So that was my question. So you stood about this far back from Colleen when she
Yes.
was making the call?
yeah, she just hit me, so I stood back.
Okay. Well, she described what had happened to her, correct?
She was, from what I could comprehend, she was getting confused. And what I said is, I started to say, tell her what happened. Tell her what he did. It's something, or tell her about. I wanted her to get to what she told me.
Okay, exactly. And that was my question, Ms. Mucker. Thank you. So you were telling Colleen to tell the dispatcher that Rob hurt her?
Objection.
No, I was not.
Overruled. It's been answered now. We'll allow the last answer to stand.
You didn't tell Colleen to tell the dispatcher that Rob had hurt her and what Rob had done to her?
I said, tell them what she told me. I did not know that Rob hurt her or hit her.
From what Colleen had reenacted with you?
No. That my chest was red, no bruise.
Eventually, you asked Colleen to leave. Is that fair to say?
No, she left on her own. I
Okay.
gave her a hug.
Gave her a hug, and she asked whether or not you'd be mad at her, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And after you hugged her, you said goodbye, correct?
I did.
Okay. There wasn't any point in time on November 13th, 2014 that you said, don't ever come back, correct?
Not on that date, no.
Okay.
I wasn't going to escalate that anger.
And you made sure that she had her phone.
I did.
Okay. Now, the next morning, we talked just briefly about that, Ms. Smucker. It was approximately 6:30 in the morning, correct?
Yes.
All right. And Colleen never came into your house, did she?
No.
Okay. You kind of kept her outside the door, correct?
Yes.
Basically said, listen, I don't have your phone, right?
I opened the door and she was behind a glass screen door, so I could see her perfectly.
And she looked hazy to you, didn't she?
She had circles under her eyes like I imagined she would.
Well, in fact, do you recall giving testimony in a prior proceeding in approximately April of this year?
Oh, yes.
Do you recall at that point in time stating that Colleen appeared hazy?
Yes.
And is that still your testimony today, Ms. Smucker?
She looked hungover, is what I was trying to get to when I said hazy.
You wouldn't disagree that you had said hazy in the
I
prior
would not
proceeding?
disagree with that at all.
And that you had not said hungover, correct?
Correct.
You never have any further conversations with Colleen after November 14th, 2014, correct?
No conversation, no. Her dog accidentally got in my garage and she came over and apologized, got the dog and left.
Okay, but no one-on-one contact, correct? In fact, you kind of decided that you were not going to have anything to do with either Rob or Colleen after that point in time.
Right.
Fair to say, both of them. And had you had any real meaningful conversations with Rob McKernan?
Meaningful? You mean as, I don't know what you mean by meaningful.
Any significant conversations? Did he ever come out over to your house and spend any time with you?
One time, and when I went over there for dinner, we had conversation.
Okay, and on the one time prior to the dinner that you just described, did Rob and Colleen come over or just Rob?
Rob and Colleen were over.
Okay, so you were never at a point in time where you were alone with only Rob, having a conversation about something?
Yes, Colleen would leave. It was a cookout. Colleen would leave. Sometimes Rob would leave. He was talking about Ohio State.
Did you text Rob?
No.
Would you have purposely called Rob?
Would I or did I?
Did you?
Did I? I did not.
Okay. If I can just have a moment, Your Honor.
You may.
Just a couple more questions, Ms. Mucker. When you talked about when you spoke earlier about talking to Colleen about how to use a gun, do you recall that?
Yes.
Did you have your own gun?
Yes.
Okay, so when you were talking about Colleen showing you, how to pull the trigger, how to utilize the gun, you also had your own gun at that point in time.
Yes.
Okay. Do you have your CCW?
No.
And you don't know what happened on December 31st, 2014, correct?
Correct?
And you would agree that it would be very unacceptable for a man to hit a woman.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained. Counsel, ladies and gentlemen, we will disregard that last question
Thank you, I have no further questions.
You may step down.
Thank you.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Ms. It is 12:15. So we are going to do that right now. Please, again, admonitions always apply. Don't discuss the case. Don't let anybody discuss it in your presence. Don't form or express an opinion on it until it is finally submitted to you, but we are getting closer to that point. So please keep your juror badges on while you are at lunch. Again, don't ingest any alcohol or anything of that sort over the lunch hour. And I will ask that you report to the jury assembly room at 1:20, and we will collect you at that time to continue for at least a portion, if not the entire afternoon. All right, so please enjoy your lunch. We are in recess.